Shalom, Pilzno Chevra. It's good to be back here, right? Round two of Derech Eretz. Today we're going to be talking about Derech Eretz with stealing, right? So, halachically, we actually have a few different classifications of stealing, right? And some of them are just much more obvious, right? We have within the Seres Dibros, right? Latignov, right, which they actually say is more like kidnapping. We have, right? We have Gezel, which is, like physical items. So those are much more simplistic, much more straight to the point. Today I want to talk much more about things that aren't so much to the point, right? Things that we're just kind of like, oh, that's okay. And I'm going to start off with a story, right? And the story, it goes like this, right? It was at the beginning of the whole Corona situation, and I was over by a grocery store. And, so you had to wear gloves on the inside, you had to wear a mask on the inside, and this woman walked out with her young daughter, and she told her daughter to go grab a handful of gloves that were put out specifically for the people who were going into the store to do their shopping. Right, these are cheap gloves, but on the other side, they sell them. And so I went ahead and I whispered to the girl, I think that might not be okay because, that might be stealing. And she goes, Mommy, it's stealing! And she runs off. And, I wasn't really expecting that sort of reaction. But why would somebody overlook that, right? I mean, the reality is the grocery store actually sells boxes of this exact same glove that they were giving out as a very nice thing for people to be able to use to make sure that we're good and safe and healthy while we do our grocery shopping. So take a step back, a few thousand years, right? And then a few thousand more, right? The Dor Hamabul, right? So Medrash talks about, and Rashi emphasizes on this, right? One of the main reasons, like the straw that broke the camel's back by the Dor Hamabul is that they would steal. And it wasn't like they would steal so much that they would be breaking somebody else in the process. They would steal just enough that there was no legal or halachic consequence, right? And so when you think about that, that actually takes an awareness. You actually have to be aware of what you're doing. But even more than that, nowadays people just walk all over these sorts of things. We aren't aware. There's a lack of awareness, which we notice if we open up our awareness to the world as it is today. So, I just want to point out a couple other types of things that we might not be aware of, some things we can actually use, maybe utilize, grow a little bit as individuals. Right? So I actually heard in the shir by a Rav I hold by. I want to make sure, I can't quote him 100%, so I'm not going to say by his name, but he had mentioned that even overhearing somebody else's tefillah, right, like during the silent Shemona Esrei or some other time in davening when people are being quiet, that could also be considered stealing. So that's a more unique situation, though, and I want to tell you why and how it even more so impacts on the level of Derech Eretz. Because we're dealing with two people, right? We say Lashon Hara affects three people. Well, this situation affects two, right? We have the person who's overhearing, right? So they're technically stealing. We have the other person who's davening loud enough that they're causing somebody else to overhear them, right? There's a level of kavod that goes on both sides of it. So one of them says, for the person who's overhearing, oh, I need to give this guy a little bit more space. Right now we don't have to worry too much about that. We have, 2 meters, 6.5 feet between each other. But when life goes back to normal, we definitely have to keep these things in mind, right? That we have to be able to, we have to be conscientious of those around us. But the person davening shouldn't be thinking to themselves, I'm davening on my own and nobody else is being impacted by this. No, there's another side to it. I'm doing something which could be causing somebody else to do an avera. Right? Now, granted, it's a slight opinion in terms of this specific halacha, but it really has an impact. Right? Privacy is something that is our personal item that people can steal. And so if we're being frugal for just letting things go, we're causing people to steal from us. We are forcing them to do so. And so just like we don't want to be conscientious stealers, right? Like the Dor Hamabul, or even worse, someone who is actually going around and pickpocketing, or, there's 1,000 other types of theft, and we can all use our imaginations. But we also have to be conscientious. How are we actually interacting with one another? And am I causing somebody else to want to steal from me? Why would someone want to steal to begin with? Usually it's because I have something that they don't. Usually it's because I have something that they want to have. Am I being too flashy in my life? Am I being boisterous? Am I bragging about something that's making somebody else jealous and therefore want to take from me? Am I speaking too loud? During my davening, during my private time with Hashem, that's causing somebody else to overhear. Am I leaving my mail out for someone else to potentially pick up on it? Right? So we have a couple different aspects, but they still all tie in. Anyways, I wish everyone an amazing Yantiv, a good Shabbos. We should all be healthy. We should all be well. We should all be mindful of ourselves and those around us. Bye-bye.